getting finals set up.
And they should be able to hear you now. I'm muted for a second.
Welcome everyone that's trickling in. We'll be starting officially in about 5 minutes. Final links and everything.
Do we have a check here?
Hmm?
This team's up.
What?
This team's up on screen.
No.
I'm gonna send Chris the link.
No, this is not on the domain.
Can you pull the link from here? Well, actually, I think I can do it. Let me just pull up the team.
I'm unmuting. I'm unmuting. You guys want the audio on or no? Okay, it should be good.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about the slight delay, technical issues as usual. We will call this meeting to order at 1:04 p.m. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Need a thumbs up from somebody. All right, perfect. Thank you. And as usual, this meeting is being broadcast. And per the Texas Open Meetings Act, the link is on our main The link is on our main TAGCB website for any of your colleagues that are interested in viewing. All right, I will go ahead and take attendance to ensure we have a quorum today. All right. Joshua Villalobos.
Present.
Thank you. Miguel Ramos.
Present.
Samuel Echevarria Cruz.
Present.
Heather Hicks. Margaret Richardson.
Present.
Stephen Salvato.
Present.
Tasha Brown.
Present.
Erica Richardson.
Present.
Chris Nelson.
Present.
Amy Schaus. Chad Booth.
Present.
Brenda Kill.
Present.
Kenneth Wink. Barbara Smith.
Present.
Lisa Locker.
Present.
Nita Queen.
Present.
Mary Bell Gonzalez.
Present.
Carmen Carter.
Present.
Apologies to those of you whose name I butchered, and thank you for your patience. Okay, I wanted to go ahead and move to the next item, which is the approval of our previous meeting minutes. We did not cover we did not approve the fall meeting minutes from 2023, so we'll start there. And then we'll move to the spring ones. So I will share my screen so we can look over them. Okay, here we are. So we had our welcome introduction, opening remarks. Again, the reminder of open meeting acts. Took attendance, which we met quorum. And then we had presentation and possible action to elect ACGM committee co-chairs. We requested university and community college representatives. We had Nita for our university representative and Erica for our community college representative. Both were motioned and second and unanimously appointed. Then we had a review of the ACGM manual and charge of the committee, in which we went over a PowerPoint presentation with the high points. We had a brief overview of TTAC field of study, and then presentation and possible action to adopt the kinesiology subcommittee materials. And We had presentation of those materials. First item presented was the kinesiology physical education edits to current ACGM courses with a side-by-side comparison of current language versus proposed language. And then we had 1164 edits presented, kinesiology 1301 edits presented, and a motion to accept all remaining edits were made by Brenda, seconded by Chris. No discussion required. 13 approvals, 1 opposed, 1 abstaining. Then we had presentation of kinesiology subcommittee new course recommendations. Motion to approve remaining new courses due to no significant concerns to the curriculum presented. And that was, motion was made by Chris, seconded by Amy, no discussion required, 14 approvals, 1 opposed. Then we had the presentation and possible action to recommend UT Austin Dana Center proposal for math for educators / math 1314 deletion. At that point, the Dana Center did not have a proposal ready and it was tabled. And then we had presentation, possible action to recommend teacher virtual observation for education 1301 and 2301. And we had a overview given by Emma, and a motion to amend the proposal was made by Joshua. And motion was seconded by Chris. And then feedback that there was additional discussion likely. We checked with general counsel to determine if placing the proposal on the website for public comment was an option. And then we discussed spring 24 manual publication and next steps. And adjourned the meeting at 10:52 and the live broadcast was terminated. So that's a quick overview of the meeting notes from fall 23. Do we have a motion to approve?
All motion. This is Tasha.
Thank you, Tasha. Do we have a second?
I second.
This
Gail?
is Barbara.
And Barbara, okay. All right. Any opposed? And all in agreements?
Agree.
Agreed.
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 Notes adopted, and I will switch to our spring meetings. Go. Welcome and introduction, staff opening remarks, call to order at 1:02. Welcome to all the site and virtual participants. Once again, reminded everyone of the Open Meeting Acts and took attendance. Co-chair comments were made and the meeting was turned over to Nita and Erica. Needed to join the agenda discussion. We discussed updates since the previous meeting, and we discussed the Texas registered posting comments for education 1301 and 2301. And we decided that any suggested content changes would be better handled by an EDC specific subcommittee. Then we discussed the kinesiology, new and existing edits. There were no concerns noted during the public comment period for that. We circled back to convening subject-specific subcommittees, and it was determined that they were needed, especially EDUC, to evaluate current ACGM offerings. A motion was made by Sam to convene these subcommittees, and Tasha provided a second. Discussion recap was provided by Nita, and the Motion to convene subject-specific subcommittees passed unanimously. We passed it over to the Dana Center for them to provide their updates following staff turnover. Frank Sabina was noted as the new lead chair, and additional committee members were introduced and present and provided updates on their proposal. It was not ready for review at the time. However, clarification was provided regarding the end goal of the committee, which was to create math specific to educators that would replace Math 1314, that would focus on providing educators the necessarily knowledge to be able to teach math to their students. From there, we had updates from TCCMS. Kristen and Isaiah were replaced as joint chairs to the ACGM committee, or they replaced the previous chair in John, and they spoke about upcoming TCCMS webpage overhauls. And then from there, we went to spring 24 publication and next steps, and noted that rule rewrites were necessary. However, there was no discussion on specific rewrites and table to be addressed at today's meeting. We then had a motion to adjourn by Miguel, second by Tasha, and that meeting adjourned at 2:25 p.m. Do I have a motion to adopt these minutes?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Brenda? And if I get the names wrong, just let me know. I'm going based on who I see go off mute. All right. Any questions about these notes or the recap before we move on to the next agenda item?
Amanda, I just had a question
Yes, ma'am.
of when when should we expect to receive the notes from the spring 24 meeting?
They were approved today, and I will send them out by end of day, both the fall and the spring, so everyone can.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
When should these at our institution go into effect?
What specifically?
So changes to ACGM, particularly the Kanish changes.
Those were active as of definitely by September 15. I don't know the
we have to go back and double check the commissioner approval date, but that's when they become effective. So that would have happened after the spring meeting. I believe the commissioner provided final approval in July. So all of the changes are effective and in the current ACGM.
Okay.
And that's one thing I wanted to note. The ACGM manual is currently updated. Now, there is not a static document uploaded, which I know most people are used to seeing as the most updated version. However, if you simply just run a new report, all of the new courses and all of the edits are currently live and active and good to go. So anyone who wants to know when it will be updated, it's definitely already updated. There's just not a static document uploaded. So hopefully that will ease some of your colleagues' mind. And there have been a couple of questions about the embedded link on the website. The website has undergone some updates and is good to go. And everything's working as of this morning. So shouldn't be any concerns there. And at this point, I will stop talking and turn things over to Erica and Nina.
So I guess we're ready for the Dana Center updates.
Yes. Tammy, is that going to be you today? All
Yes.
right, we have Tammy Perez Rice, is our representative from the Dana Center today. Sorry, Erica, as I told you, I kind of don't know how to be quiet, so
Okay.
Tammy,
No, no.
it's all you.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Yes, we're super excited to be here. We did forward you a formal proposal with the letters of endorsement from different institutions, as well as a document that highlights frequently asked questions. And so I did look to see if I could potentially drop that into the chat, but it doesn't appear to have that feature available. So I don't know if you happen to have that proposal.
Someone is checking right now to see if
Okay.
we can enable that. The chat should be.
Yeah, but you did a great job of highlighting the key features of essentially seeing the learning gap and recognizing that a new course should be developed with the removal of Math 1314 and the introduction of Math 1352 to highlight the emphasis of teaching algebraic topics as opposed to the standard college algebra experience that most teachers are going to be are right now as the status quo. So this would redirect them to the math that aligns to their career aspirations, which would be in Math 1351, with the added course of 1952, which is essentially fundamentals of teaching algebraic topics. And we understand with the new Senate bill that recently passed, Senate Bill, I believe 2124, that affords more people to be on an accelerated math track to be able to take algebra their 8th grade year. We will definitely need more certified teachers to teach those courses and anticipation of more students being given access to college, to Algebra 1 their 8th grade year. Jane, if I missed anything, feel free to elaborate if you so inclined.
Thanks, Tammy. Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Long. I'm from Stephen F. Austin State University, and I'm pleased to be here today and part of this project. Tammy, the only thing I think at one point maybe you said 1952 or 19, but 1350, 1351,
Yes, thank you.
1352, 3 credit hour classes all across the way. Thanks.
Thank you. So if you are not given access right now to that document, we'll be sure to forward it to everybody so that you'll be able to look thoroughly through that and see all the details as well as those letters of endorsement and any questions you might have. Hopefully the frequently asked question document will help.
Tammy, can you check and see if you're able to put it in the chat now?
Sure. Give me just.
Sorry, y'all, we're having technical difficulties.
No, it doesn't appear so. Usually there's like the little kind of icon at the bottom.
I'm not able to add a document. I did send out meeting materials beforehand, and we definitely included the FAQ document. Did any of the committee members have questions based on the FAQ document? No. Yes. Sam.
Hi, Sam, Austin Community College. Thank you. Yeah, I went through it. So just to be clear, because there's a couple of things here, right? It's creating 1352. And what and this is, I'm not in, I'm in liberal arts, but is this pathway, would it be required to use 1352 to meet the teacher prep, or could individual institutions choose not to?
Our recommendation, there would, as we laid it out in the proposal, the recommendation is that those that identified as education majors would then be encouraged to take the Math 1351 as their entry-level math course. And if that requires support, that ideally that would be created through a co-rec. However, we know that there's going to be like any change, just like we heard earlier about the kinesiology, like there's a grace period and there's of course getting institution acclimated and with the support with the ACGM to redesign how that would look as a field plan.
Okay, so there's still some other things happening, but presumably, be given all the support, all institutions would see the value of this and move towards this 3-course pathway. With,
Exactly.
I guess just being TSI in math would get you to 1350 then, or correct otherwise.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well
Thank
said.
you.
If I might, sorry, this is Emma, at the coordinating board. I just wanted to clarify that, you all wanted us to convene a work group to look at this and other education courses. So we will be doing that, and our goal is to have a recommendation from that work group for you all to consider for a vote at the spring meeting. So this is, an opportunity to discuss, and Sam, I agree. I think we'll have to figure out what an implementation of a change like this would mean and how we would transition across institutions and fields of study and things like that. So that would be a longer process. But we do have that on the radar. It's a big change.
I think our goal was that it would need to exist first, the math 1352, before any other change could happen. So yeah, well said.
And I just sent the full proposal document to everyone's email. Since I wasn't able to drop it in the chat, Kristen, I got your message and you should have received that as well.
My hand's up. I didn't know if you could see that or not, but I was just wondering if we know if all the community colleges are offering these courses currently, and if they themselves are having difficulty finding faculty to teach them. I'm just wondering about the very difference. This is not just going to be a math faculty member that could teach college algebra. This is a different skill set in these courses that you will need math faculty that have that educational background and training. And we need to be sure that the community colleges are prepared to offer the additional courses on top of what they already are. I know the Dana Center is really focused on math, but there's an equal need for teaching literacy. And with such a strong emphasis only in math, are we leaving out a very important component for elementary education or those EC6 teachers as well? And, do we need a balance there? So I think that's something that the committee, I'm glad you're going to definitely form that committee to look at the AAT and the educational coursework that is offered at the lower division to be sure that we're really preparing our future teachers.
Brenda, if I could jump in and address one part of what you brought in regarding mathematics versus literacy. To be clear, we're not proposing that students take more hours in mathematics than they presently are, just a change in the courses that they're actually taking. So of course, your point about literacy is well taken, but I hope we wouldn't view it as taking away from that part of their preparation.
I can say from the community college side, we are teaching math 1350 and 1351. So we do have the staff that's already teaching those classes. So I don't think we would have any trouble adding the 1352 to teach those concepts because they're already teaching the other two. So I'm not concerned about that angle. That's at least from our college perspective.
And Erica, just for public knowledge, what institution are you?
Trinity Valley Community College.
I don't know who was next, but I see Stephen and Chris both have your hands up. So one of you pipe up, please.
Steve's first.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So, this proposal, so this has not been, we're not voting on this today. This is just a proposal that's been made, and I guess there's still a period to get input from faculty from all over the state on this. Is that correct?
Tammy, that's a you question. Yes.
Okay. I have spoken to, and of course, our math faculty here, department chair here, I'm at Central Texas College in Killeen, was aware of this initiative, and some of them have really big reservations about removing, college algebra. The students that, I mean, would this be, and this is something I guess to be hashed out, but would we be putting students who do want to teach middle school or high school, would we be putting them kind of behind? They're going to have college algebra. And I guess that's something that the math people will have to kind of, hash out. But and personally, I teach chemistry. There's a lot of math in chemistry. I have very big concerns about removing college algebra. I do know that we're going to need more teachers. We're going to need more math teachers. We want those teachers to be, we want them to be prepared to teach math. If there's a teacher that wants to teach math in the state of Texas, and college algebra is a roadblock to them, maybe they should not. Yeah, maybe math is not the subject they need to be teaching. I understand we're talking about elementary, and I understand too that elementary school teachers have different things that they're teaching. I totally understand that, but I just wanted to make sure that math faculty from across the state will be able to kind of chime in on this. I am not a math faculty person, but thank you.
And my understanding of the proposal, just to kind of ease your mind a little bit, is while the goal is to replace 13-14, it's not necessarily to replace the concepts that are taught or learned. It's just to modify them in such a way that they're learning them, but they're taught also how to teach that material as well. So it's more beefing up and modifying the current content for an educator versus removing that knowledge base. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Well said. And Stephen, just to help too, this wasn't necessarily a blanket across the board for like those that are going to be teaching high school or even the upper levels of middle school math. That would still be on its own designed path. This was mainly for those EC through 8th or EC through 6 certifications.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Christopher?
Yeah, just a quick question for the group, because I see I'm on the liberal arts side of the house, but I see that we have the 50 and the 51 on our books, but we don't have them in the mathematics area of the core or as an approved AAS elective in math. Is that pretty standard across the board, or are some of y'all treating these as gen ed math courses? Because I know one of the FAQs is, do they use the 1350 to be core complete? And the answer is, it depends. So I just didn't know if we had, as a state, we'd reached some type of consensus on that already, because I remember this being an argument with our math department, our education department, and our curriculum committee some years back.
Anyone have
I'll just offer, my understanding from the coordinating board side is it's still institution-specific decision about whether or not to include those courses as core curriculum courses. So I don't think that's anything that we are mandating across the state or that we have reached.
Yeah, and I think our arguments here were precipitated by a visit from our accreditor maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
And because college algebra is a prerequisite, you usually did not include it.
Yeah, and so it was kind of a non-issue, like they will already have the 14-14 or the 13-14. So yeah, a conversation to be had.
Yeah, St. Philip's College has the 13-14, and then the 14-14, we don't offer the 13-50 at all.
I'm guessing 1351 either.
No.
And Miguel, I believe you had a comment and a question.
Yeah, well, just going back to Christopher's point here. So at HCC, Houston Community College, we have all of those in the core. So we approach that from that perspective. So we have one of the letters of support. So we read through this and thought it was a reasonable idea for the EC6 educators.
Okay, so if we all decide to go down this road, we're all going to be reaching out to HCC for the playbook.
Well, we've got one, we'll share it.
At PVCC, ours is not part of the math core, but it is part of the 090. So it's not part of math, but they can still get the CAO for it.
And Sam Houston State endorsed it, and they also have a path that's very similar to what we're proposing, as does a few other institutions that we met. So as you read through their letter of recommendation, some will even lean into what they have historically been doing. That seems very similar to what, as Miguel said, HEC has taken approach to. So there'll be quite a few institutions we can definitely lean on if this is to go, down that path.
Yeah, and I will just add in a note to that point, Tammy, that the universities are not required to have college algebra as part of their 4-year education program. So they may choose to. They're not required to, but the community colleges are required to have a student complete 13-14 before they can, be AET or field of study complete in this area. So there's some.
Yes, of course.
Aligning the curriculum.
For sure. Definitely. We've definitely talked about 2-year and 4-year in these conversations. I was just kind of leaning in if we needed to lean on to how others have done it that didn't have this kind of boundaries previously.
Yes, absolutely.
Any further discussion, question, comments regarding this topic? Sam?
So quick point of clarification, and excuse my ignorance here, but the 1350 and 1351 are middle school certifications. If we go down this path, what's for 7th and 8th grade math prep? How does that work? Because would you have different sections based on EC6 versus more advanced math? I guess we have 1350 and 1351. It's neither in the core, but as is the case, college algebra or 1324 is a prereq, or math placement post TSI. But I guess I'm just a little confused as to, this is an EC6, but this course isn't just for EC6 students.
So generally, the students who are certifying 4 through 8 have a lot more hours of mathematics. They generally are required to complete college algebra, generally a logic and proof, an upper level geometry type course. And so at our institution, Stephen F. Austin, and some of the other 4-year universities that we talked to, the students who are certifying to teach middle level are in 1350, 1351, and those of us who have a 1352 type course, they're all in there together. And so we don't offer separate sections, and there hasn't seemed to be much conversation around a need to offer any differentiation there. Because it's understood that the middle level prospective teachers will be getting more. And there is value in them seeing very well what the students are seeing before they get to them at the 7th and 8th grade level. Does that answer your question?
Perfectly. So basically,
Okay.
1352 really would be for EC6 only. Got it. Okay, perfect.
That would
Thank you.
be up to the institution.
Right. But it would be designed for that math pathway in lieu of 1314, while everyone else has already got what they need.
And
I just wonder if it creates, if you have those who haven't taken algebra in 1350 and those who have, you know, that's just out of a learning space. It may not matter at all.
It doesn't seem to, in the conversations that we've had with the working group over the years. But a lot, I don't know that we've pulled it apart, and really looked at it in a systematic way. But the experience seems to be pretty robust. Tammy, did you have anything to add?
Nope, I was hoping you would chime in from your experience. Thank you, Jane.
Okay.
And Jane, since you do have a course like this at Stephen F. Austin, do you offer it as lower division or upper division?
We offer it as lower division.
Was that your question, Brenda?
Yes, I know we have some upper division math instructional courses, but not sure.
Yes, we do have more hours at the 3000 level for the middle school math teachers, but the number of the course that I'm speaking about is 1352.
All right, anyone else before we move on from this topic? All right, Tammy and Jane, you're more than welcome to stay, but that's all the obligation that we had from you. But you're, like I say, welcome to hang out, and thank you so much for being available to answer questions. And there may be some moving forward, so I'll be sure to keep those and gather them and send them all your way should something else arise moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So now are we moving on to updates
Yes,
from the Texas Common Course Numbering System chairs?
Yes, and Kristen and Isaiah, I don't know that you necessarily had many updates, but I wanted to put you on the agenda to give you the opportunity. It's better to give you a chance and you have nothing than not give you a chance and you did have something. So just briefly, Isaiah, I see you're off. Your camera's off.
Yeah, I can jump in unless Kristen wants to. Kristen's going to be the outgoing chair and I'm coming in. So Kristen, if you're there, do you want to say anything? If not, I can jump in.
Sure. So yeah, Isaiah, that face that you see, I was eating earlier. So anyway, that face that you saw first, he's going to be the new face for the next few years. But we did send out an update to all of our people on the new changes, and Amanda was very helpful in updating or working on those updates with us. And so on the TACR website, they built a new link that just goes over some updates on how to navigate the new site, as well as how the new courses that were added to the inventory, how to search the ACGM site to find the most up-to-date courses. So we did send that out to all of the people. We have what we call administrative contacts for the TCCNS, the people who update their courses. Also, if you haven't had a chance yet, the look of the TCCNS site has also changed. Same URL, but we did do a server change. So it has a new look. We've added new functionality for the administrators where they can update all of their own users as well. I think we've got some really great things in sight. We have it right now where you can view core. Also, if they've added that information, we're looking at seeing if we can integrate the core information the state's already developed into the site. Isaiah and his A&M systems have used a lot of the data from the site to export it and use it to aid in their transfer functionality where they build in like equivalencies through the site. So that's a lot of ways that schools aren't using it. So we're really just trying to increase education on the site and also the end user functionality. So that's my key update. Isaiah, what else do you have that I missed?
No, I think that's good, Kristen. One of the things that we'll probably start trying to do is get a better understanding of how end users are actually using the TCSS website. So for instance, one of the things we've seen is there is a difference in the way that people will populate data on the site. So some will only put in courses if they have an equivalent. Usually for universities, well, what I'm about to describe is most prevalent with universities. Oftentimes they put in kind of placeholder courses too, to demonstrate how a course might transfer from a community college to a university. So for instance, if they don't offer an accounting 2401, they may have accounting 2301 listed twice on there. That's kind of one of the functions, or they may put something like a general elective if they don't offer one of the other TCCS courses. So those are some of the kind of use cases that we're looking at to try to see how people are using the information on the site. The other thing that we're trying to do is, like Kristen mentioned, our system has really leveraged the data on the TCCS website to do some extracts and to load it up into our system schools databases, so student information systems. And that's something that we're going to encourage people to do as well. That's kind of a gap that we've seen, is that your institutions all will submit to the TCS, but there's not a lot of data usage kind of in bulk coming back out of the system. And what we're finding is that people kind of use it as a one-off. They're doing some course comparisons, but we would like for people to start using the data kind of in a bigger way, I guess. It's probably the best way to describe it.
Any questions for Kristen or Isaiah this time? Also, again, Isaiah, Kristen, more than welcome to hang out and listen to the rest of the meeting, but I appreciate you being available for updates, questions, and comments.
Thank you.
Erica, back to you.
So the next item on the agenda is looking at the previous year's enrollment data and discussing courses that should be considered for modification and deletion on ACGM. That was part of the content that we were sent back on Wednesday or Friday.
Yes. So as I mentioned in the email, I know it was a lot of data that you received on short notice. In fairness, I sent it to you pretty much as soon as we got it. There's just been so many changes, especially on our end as far as the way data is pulled, viewed, distributed. So it took quite a bit of maneuvering to make sure we got the data and that we didn't violate any FERPA guidelines in the process. So what we were able to distribute to you seems to be the safest document that has everything contained without any confidentiality concerns. So hopefully you had at least a brief moment to look over that data and see kind of where we're at. 2021 was an off year just across the board pretty much, because the year following COVID numbers were not the most reliable. So we put more focus on 22 and 23 years numbers. So with that being said, did anyone want to start a discussion, anything they noticed, any comments, concerns, questions about that material at all?
I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at it, but what jumps out again is that these are courses that are being offered by a very low number of institutions, either in both years or in FY23 only, and still had fewer than 10 students. And I think I'm sure that's one of the reasons we're looking at them right now. Something that did jump out to me was a couple of academic cooperatives that are in there. Some of which may be included in field of study or whatever. I don't know because I didn't look. But wondering whether or not those would, or how those might have any effect on field of study itself. But then secondly, they don't go away as courses. They just don't show up in the ACGM. So as we look at this and think about that, you know, maybe that would take away a worry.
Very hopeful point. We did, Emma and I definitely had a discussion about that academic cooperative courses, and we both kind of expressed some confusion as well. So I'll let Emma take that one.
Yeah, so I mean, I think those are, they're academic cooperatives where students may be working for credit. So we were thinking of them more as independent study courses. Again, not necessarily something that we're recommending you all recommend to delete or anything. We just wanted to, be transparent and provide the data. One question, both Amanda and I are new at this, and I know we're going to talk about rules in a few minutes, but the rules say that if 3 or fewer institutions have offered a course, that it's up for consideration for deletion for you all. But it's only for the previous academic year, and to us, that seems like a very short period of time to make a decision about whether a course should be deleted. We were thinking it should be, maybe 5 years or at least 3 years. So again, not necessarily presenting this to you all to make a decision about whether it should be deleted, but to give you a sense of what the data looks like, and what kind of timeline you all might want to consider for identifying courses to be deleted. I do think courses like academic cooperatives, independent studies, I think some of the music courses are very individualized, but maybe some of the broader courses offered.
Miguel, yeah, I see your comment of liking a 3-year range. My thought was 3 years should be the minimum, just in a sense, because that's the standards for our low producing programs. We look at least the last 3 years of data. So that seems like at minimum, ACGM should take that into consideration as well. So, Miguel, if you want to go ahead and bounce off of that, I see your hands.
Yeah. So I guess it's a procedural point. So as the committee, is that our first charge is to establish some sort of baseline that we use to evaluate a course? So like we vote on having 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, something like that.
We won't be doing any voting today, but we will do the recommendation part, the discussion part of it for sure.
So what I might recommend, so the current rules that you all have for your committee, which I think were shared in advance as well, they do say, that it is up for consideration for you all if it's been offered by 3 or fewer institutions in the last academic year. So it doesn't tie your hands that you have to do anything, but it would be helpful for us as staff to have some guidance and recommendations from you all as we move forward with revising the rules, to prepare a draft for you all to look at the spring meeting. That makes sense.
Thank you.
Sita?
Yes, I was going to say, I agree. I think, maybe 3 to 5 years, at least 3. I know that, COVID, of course, really kind of disrupted everything. And I was just looking through the list. Again, I teach at Central Texas College, and I noticed that horticulture was on here. Before COVID, we taught that course, at least once a year. We lost one of our adjuncts that teaches that course. We're currently trying to hire a full-time person. So I kind of hated to see horticulture on there, but I think, I kind of agree. I think that, just a year or even 2 years is not long enough to look at kind of deleting, a course. I think we need at least 3 years, maybe 3 to 5. But thank you.
Joshua?
Hi, yeah, so I was also looking at this list, and there's quite a few that we have here at EPTC that we're still teaching, and are actually pretty popular. So I just wanted to make sure before I send this out to just to field some questions from faculty here. So for instance, if I'm looking at, let's say, the solar systems, the stars and galaxies astronomy course. So according to this list, there's only one CTC institution that's teaching that course?
I believe so, yes. If I'm pulling it up, but if that's what it says.
Again, and this is based on the data that was pulled for us, so if we
Okay.
need to go back, we can go back and double check. I know our data team worked fairly hard on getting this together for us, so that would be, there may be multiple, well, I guess there wouldn't be multiple of the same course. There also may be other versions of the course with different numbers that are offered that do not fall under this offered less than three or fewer institutions category.
Correct. This is just listing the lab. So if it's taught only as a 3-hour, or if it's taught without a lab, if that is a way to teach it, or it's a 4-hour, then you have it. There's probably others. I know that there's other community colleges that offer stars and galaxies, but probably as that 4
But
hours.
as a 2-hour lecture and then the 1-hour lab. Okay, I see. Okay. Okay, I think I'll look through this list and just kind of see where the questions might come from the faculty.
I'm sorry, what?
That I think I'll go through the list and just kind of review them.
You're breaking up.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes,
no, I
favorite.
think I'm good. I'll just review this list a little bit more closely. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I think in addition to things like the academic cooperative, the labs are also something I don't know. It seems like those should be left as they may be used in different ways at different institutions. So that was our read of the data, but if you all have additional insights, that will always be helpful.
If I could chime in one more time,
yes.
I'm sorry. That's Stephen Salvato here. Yeah, I noticed in the list the question about the stars and galaxies, and as mentioned by others here, a lot of institutions, have the lecture and the lab combined. At CTC, all of our sciences are 4-hour courses. The 3-hour lecture course and the 1-hour lab are combined into a 4-hour course, whereas at a lot of institutions, they're separated. So you'll take the 3-hour, general chemistry lab and the 1-hour general chemistry laboratory course. It's exactly the same course. It's just the lab and lecture are split up, and I see a lot of that here. So unless we wanted to force everyone to go to a 4-hour lab, I know a lot of institutions don't, a 4-hour course, combined course. There are some advantages to keeping them separate, some advantages to combining them, but I think we need to be careful on that lecture lab separation.
Just real quick, I think it's also cross-listed with a physics course. I thought the stars and galaxies was a physics course, not astronomy. So it might be that 1-hour course could be on the physics. Obviously, it's not on the list. So the 1-hour physics lab for stars and galaxies might be over 10 students enrolled.
And I think it might be helpful in general for us to determine what those are, like you were pointing out, how it could be cross-listed with physics, or some are lecture, lab, separate, some are combined. So I think just determining which courses pair up together would be helpful as well, and assessing what needs to be added or deleted or modified as well.
Would it all be possible to get the names of the institutions that offer these courses as well?
We have it, we just kind of left that part of it out because it was towing that purple line, because if only one institution teaches it and only 3 people enrolled in it, it's getting close to revealing type names and types of stuff. So, but yes, ultimately we do have that data.
Okay, because I'm not sure if these institutions may have something like El Paso Community College, where we're the only community college in far west Texas, and we have certain agreements with UTEP. So what we may do here at EPCC may be very different than other areas of Texas, or with our partnering institutions. So maybe there's the same situation in other community colleges where they have very low enrollment, but there's very unique partnership agreements between their transfer institution.
I will note that the unique needs courses, that process is in place for situations such as you were referencing, for those agreements and cooperations. And a lot of those courses aren't necessarily listed within the main ACGM database because, like you say, they're specific to certain institutions.
Okay.
So yes, community El Paso does have several of those agreements. Glenn has a couple, and San Antonio system, they have a couple of different ones as well. So that is also an option when considering courses for deletion, in the sense that it may not be feasible to keep in the ACGM across the board, but you do have that one in community college in one specific area that has 50 people every year that want to take this course. And those situations can be looked at on a case-by-case basis. So we do have that in the rules to allow for that and that process.
Okay, thank you.
Miguel?
Well, I guess I just had a clarifying question on that. So by my read of the data you all sent, like Astronomy 1103 wouldn't be one of the ones that's in trouble. It's offered at 8 institutions and it's not indicated as being less than 10 students, right? Am I reading the table correctly?
Yes, so what I will say is that the less than 10 students, that's not explicit in your rules. The rules don't address enrollments. They only address the number of institutions that are offering it. We flagged them because we were just trying to figure out a way to narrow down some of the
Right. Yeah,
considerations.
and so those are the ones that are highlighted. Like looking at the list, stars and galaxies wouldn't be something that necessarily jumps out at me because it's offered at least 8 institutions. And for all I know, it's 10,000 students are taking that because it doesn't say. So
Valid.
Yeah, so that may be something else for your consideration of whether not just the number of institutions offering it, but the volume of enrollments.
Yeah.
What sort of cutoff would make sense? Or none.
Sam?
So I'm confused. I assume this was an and. So, but it's not, which means to the point just made, I assume that if you're on this list, you're highlighted specifically, you're under 3 and you had less than 10 students, but it's actually or?
No, that's correct. It's and.
Oh, okay. So
But
astronomy 1103 in in 8 institutions has had less than 10 enrolled in
No,
those 8 institutions.
I don't think so. I think it's only the ones that are highlighted. So at least unless I accidentally erased it, line 31 and 32, astronomy 1103, there's 2 of them, stars and galaxies, at 1 CTC institution, at 7 universities, but it is not highlighted. So there's no indication that it has more than, yeah.
So also the rules do not specify a threshold for universities offering it. It only talks about community colleges. So the ones that are highlighted are ones that are offered at 3 or fewer community college institutions. And then we added sort of a less than 10 enrollment threshold just as a way to sort of filter down the information. But the rules do not address the number of universities that it's offered at. Sorry, we should have clarified that. Again,
Perfect.
our first
Thank you.
round of the new data structure, so bear with us, sorry.
Yeah.
In that case, I do have a follow-up on that one, and I'm just using it as a point of reference. So that particular one, astronomy 1103, according to this table, is only offered at 1 community college. Is that the correct interpretation?
Correct.
I mean, I know we offer it. Does anyone else offer it?
We do, but we offer it under the phys prefix.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we offer it as well.
As physics or as
Astronomy.
astronomy? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 2. There's at least 2.
Yeah, so again, we're not asking you all to, make any decisions today. And, we can go back to our data team this fall and talk to them about some of these issues that are flagged. I think it's been a while since this committee has looked at data like this to make decisions. So we're all sort of new to this process. So really just wanted to have a discussion about it.
Based on, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that falls under the heading of unless other factors indicate a need.
Right.
Based on the data here, is there anything that stands out that you feel like needs additional discussion at the moment?
What are LANG courses?
Language.
I think we also have to look this one up. Something about, sorry, my computer is dead, so I can't look it up, but it's about providing credit, I think, for international students in language courses. I can't remember the exact description, but there was a specific purpose for those courses, similar to, they're not necessarily a unique need, but they're just available for use when needed.
Similar to like the music courses, how you just have your music 1 or 2, and then your XXX, depending on if it's like choral or percussion or etc. Like language is your catch-all for something that doesn't necessarily fall under Russian or Korean, etc. So allow for a bit of flexibility while still meeting minimum guidelines for ACGM inclusion. That makes sense? Okay.
Thank you.
And I saw a comment.
Sam was faster, or we think we both went to the ACC site.
There we go. Any other questions, comments, concerns on this specific topic? I know this will go kind of hand in hand with our roles discussion, that we can't necessarily make some changes without making some changes. So I think we're at a standstill on this particular topic until we move forward to the next one. Unless anyone has a final opinion. There we go. Erica?
So then, discuss rule rewrites to the TAC regarding the ACGM Advisory Committee, Title 19, Part 1, Chapter 1, Subchapter P.
Yes. That's where it's located. There was a lot of letters and numbers there. Anyone have question, comment, concern to start us off here? Again.
So I was just looking at Rule 1.195 duration. So the committee shall be abolished no later than October 31st of 2025. So is that like a phoenix or is that permanent?
Yes, so we can re-up, reconstitute the committee. I think, we've had some discussion about here at the agency, we have, the upper division courses that community colleges offer, and then the lower division courses that community colleges offer. We're talking about ways to maybe streamline those things, but as long as we put in rule by October 31st of 2025 that this committee continues to exist, then it will continue to exist.
Just checking.
Yeah. Fair question.
I know one discussion that we've had here is, what do you as committee members envision your role as an ACGM committee member to look like? Is there something that you adamantly feel that we should be doing as a committee or should not be doing as a committee, or anywhere along those lines?
I'm a little confused of how the difference between the role of TCCNS and ACGM and where do those, because I thought TCCNS decides whether or not a new course is added to the ACGM. So what's the difference?
That is language I have personally flagged as not accurate necessarily, in the sense that based on my conversations with Kristen and Isaiah, and they can correct me, but I don't foresee any situation in which we're like, this course needs to be added to the ACGM and TCCNS is like, no, sorry, not happening. Like, they have their role, their responsibility, and their task that they perform separately and independently from the ACGM. Where the cooperation comes into play, we're like, okay, we want a new physical education course. Then I reach out to TCCNS and it's like, hey, this is a course that we're creating. It's entry level or it's sophomore level, and they generate the next number that makes sense, essentially. So we can't make up the numbers, so we need their cooperation for that. But as far as like approval or denial, my understanding, there wouldn't be a situation in which there would be a denial. There might be, okay, this is a duplicate number that you're asking for. How about this instead?
So that's certainly something we can clarify in a rule rewrite.
For sure.
Can I ask a question too? Sorry, I couldn't find the hand raise feature, but one of the questions that comes up quite a bit, and this might be worth clarifying too, with the TCCS and ACGM, is we know that the course numbers are the same, but we find that a lot of users confuse them and don't quite understand that they are essentially the same numbers. The ACGM, of course, contains student learning outcomes, and course descriptions, all those things. And TCCS is more of a matrix. But if there was some way to maybe align the language a little bit more, possibly even using the same terms for both. I mean, of course, the coordinating board would continue to manage the ACGM, and we're essentially kind of managing the data on our side with TACRO. But I do think there's an opportunity there to make it make a little bit more sense to the people that are actually using the systems.
Agreed, Isaac. And you are going to be in the perfect position for us to have those conversations going forward. Brenda.
So I guess my other question is I know the WECM and the ACGM were created many, many years ago. At what point, and maybe this is what your question is, when do we decide there are WECM programs that should be considered academic? I mean, there's just some new, there's a lot of degree programs that they have this overlap. Engineering kind of went both ways. We have engineering technology and engineering transfer, but there's a lot more programs that we see them on the academic side, but they're considered WECM courses at the community college. So I don't know how is it decided, when does something become academic transfer at the community college versus WECM? Or can there be both? I mean, I'm just thinking of things like cybersecurity and hospitality management. We have them at the 4-year level, but they're considered workforce education at the community college only.
I don't have an answer to your question just yet, and Emma will have more commentary. But while I'm thinking about it, it would be helpful on your guys' end to know what those courses are. So you've mentioned already hospitality and cybersecurity. Like, so if we knew what courses that you are saying should even be considered, that would be a good place to start.
And I don't know if there is or is not, but I think as some of these industries are requiring 4-year degrees and it makes sense, I don't know, does that come from the community colleges? Does it have to be like a joint conversation, kind of like, I guess, kind of what the Dana Center is doing, to maybe get together about what could be some new academic transfer courses? So we're not left in, I don't know, I think we're starting to fall behind as a state because we're not looking in that direction.
So I see there's a couple of hand raised, and I want to hear from you all. So I'll just jump in. You know, we've come across this on the education side as well, in looking at the early childhood education courses, which are workforce. We now have the ECV3 field of study. So I think one thing that I've been wondering is if it makes sense if we are convening discipline specific committees, that we have this as part of the charge, is to look across the courses to determine either crosswalks or like what you're describing, whether it falls into both. So that's definitely on our minds. Also having 2 completely separate inventories on my data side is not always helpful for collaboration either. So
I know that didn't necessarily answer your question, but we are aware that it is a question and a concern and something that needs to have a further conversation. Did that help at all?
So you're equally in the dark. I just wonder what the process is to add, and I probably should have read the rules, a process to add a new course to the ACGM. It's just brought forward, and by who, and how do we ensure that there is good representation in making those decisions?
So that is in the rules, the steps required to request a new course. That is something that's up for discussion for you all. If what's laid out in the rules, if you think it makes sense, or different criteria, different changes need to be added. Having recommendations on that from you all would be very helpful.
Margaret?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that Brenda brought that up because with our cybersecurity bachelor's degree that we have now, it just started, and there was a question about potentially, I don't know, just kind of throwing around an idea of adding some type of ethics course to the cybersecurity bachelor's degree. But we came up with the same situation because it is a Wickham program and not something that's considered academic. So we were kind of maybe just tossing around the idea, but we didn't know what the specifics were to figure out how that was going to happen. But I assumed that it had something to do with the accreditation. But if it's something that the ACGM might be able to clear the way for, or at least be able to get some clarification on, that might be a good idea for us in the future as we continue on with the program and we see it grow and expand, maybe something that can be added to it later.
How would you all feel about like a joint meeting with the Wacom committee? I mean, we have to go talk with our workforce folks, but something we've also discussed here is whether more integration with the committees makes more sense given the current landscape.
Miguel?
I'll second that idea. I think that's a really good conversation to have, for Margaret and Brenda. We've run into a lot of similar issues going in both directions, right? So we've actually had to start making a lot of articulation agreements with out-of-state partners because they will take workforce courses that some folks in Texas will not take. I think I put in the comments to Brenda is that we created an artificial intelligence associate's degree at HCC, which is a workforce program. So it's not really transferable to computer science. So we just created a bachelor's for it in our own college. So to the extent that that is possible, Margaret, we ran into similar question with ethics in some of our programs, and we basically reconfigured the general education requirements for workforce so we could have an ACGM as part of the core on ethics in the program. And that's how we address that. But it does take some reconfiguration and playing within the parameters of the ACGM and the WECM. And I think to Brenda's point, we actually are pretty restricted on the academic side at the community college level, but we have a lot more freedom to create local needs courses on the workforce side. So if we can't get something, we can work to create it there. But on the academic side, we're pretty much boxed in by the ACGM.
I don't have a comment necessarily on what you said, Miguel, but in the chat, Kristen dropped in that some entities like the Texas Workforce Commission only pay for the continuing education version of WECM courses. So that's something else that they consider with offerings on WECM versus ACGM. And I think that's also a valid point and something to keep in mind.
No, absolutely.
Not always. Gotcha.
I think it's also important to note when you look at some of those courses in the ACGM and in the WICM, you have some that the words are exactly the same, except maybe one word is off. And I will tell you, as a transfer advocate and working at the four-year institutions, it's many times advocating for that. And I just feel like this would be a great opportunity for us to look at those together. And I agree with what Brenda and Miguel are saying. Many times we hear students who are in our own state who are saying, well, I can go to this institution, and they're taking them so they're taking them from us. And I think, many times some of the same faculty are teaching those courses at the community college, as well as at the four-year institution. So if we could look at that a little bit closer, and then I think, like I said, for the students, sometimes they've taken it thinking it's going to be the same. And the biggest one I've seen where this first came evident to me was within the sign language. If you read the WICM description of the sign language and you read the academic description in the ACGM, there's one word that's different. So
that could fix the Texas workforce issue. You could still have a WECM version of it I mean, it'll
Yes.
cause confusion for the students knowing which version to take, but um,
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful in some of our degree programs where we're seeing high demand, and the fact that a community college now has to create another bachelor's degree because they're not transferable, like the AI, we're seeing a lot of cyber BATs in cyber. But until that student graduates, we can't accept those courses in transfer.
Right.
Kind of silly. So if they start a cybersecurity BAT at a community college, the courses will only go into an applied science degree at the university. So there is a workforce need, obviously, because we're allowing community colleges to offer them. You know, some of these, nursing is easy, but I don't know where education is, where other community college high demand bachelor's degrees are being created. You know, maybe look and start to look at some of those so that we can have better transfer pathways.
I'm for it. We're happy to send our students whoever will take our credits.
We're creating more and more workforce education course articulations because of it.
And I think at this point, it would be easier to ask if there's anyone that objects to attempting to have a joint meeting with the WECM committee. Okay. Good place to start. That is something on our end we will have a conversation about and attempt to facilitate, but it's good to know that everyone on this side is receptive and sees a need for it.
Yeah, I think, and I'm just so grateful to hear this discussion from you all. 'Cause this is something, you know, we obviously struggle with at the agency as well as the divisions between academic and workforce and how to navigate that and the course inventories. And so, being able to take a hard look at this, again, if in my mind, if the descriptions are exactly the same, to me, they would be automatically cross-listed at all of the institutions. That seems odd to me, but so things like that we've been chatting about here. So I'm really glad to hear that you all are interested in making some changes as well.
And Kristen, the information on the funding is super helpful.
Yes.
It gives us at least some background knowledge as to why something that's exactly the same is listed in two different manuals. So definitely appreciate it.
And sometimes it's building. If we offer it as a CE course, they just make them take the cheapest route. So if they qualify for Pell, they'll have them take it Pell. If they don't, then they have them take it CE. But I think going back to the funding, you know, they've made all the new rules on the ICLCs and OSAs on double dipping, but our institution and others, you know, are starting to look at pathways that do make sense from, you know, not making students completely start over with ACGM courses when they have similar credits in WECM. So I think that funding piece too will be something I want to look at, is as we articulate credits from WECM to ACGM, you know, are there additional rules, that kind of thing, like without making it too complicated, because our state programmers already our Lucian SIS people are already crying about some of the new ICLC OSA reporting, but you know, just things to think about.
Thank you, Kristen. I didn't want to be the one to bring up that we would have to involve our funding team and have funding discussions about it, but yes, that's also a big piece of the puzzle, especially with the new community college finance model. So on our radar.
Were there any other comments on this line of discussion? Back to the rules as a whole, do we have any commentary on that?
Okay, is there a subchapter P, because you gave us B and D?
So the chapter 1, subchapter B is general committee information, and then 9B, or sorry, 9D is specific to adding courses. So which one did you have a question about? If there was anything in between.
I thought the agenda was saying we're covering subchapter P as in Paul. No?
I don't think so. That may have been an error. Sorry.
So it's where it's located. That has changed some, but it shouldn't have changed.
I posted your agenda in the chat, so subchapter P, it does say P.
Oh, I see.
So it is subchapter P. Honestly, that B and D was probably word renumbering my document, to be completely honest. And I just didn't catch it. But yes, it is subchapter P. Roll 1.192 through roll 9. So yeah. I did have a question for some of you, especially those of you who've been around a bit longer. Does anyone know kind of when the ACGM rules as they are written kind of came about? Does anyone know if it came from a writer or a specific legislative session that said ACGM committee has to do X, Y, and Z? Because I'm digging, but the ACGM appears to have been established in 1987, and public transcript starts in 88 on the House Secretary of State website. So if anyone has any previous knowledge about any of the origins of what we're working through as a committee, that would be helpful. Or if you come across that information later, if you don't know anything off the top of your head, definitely send it to me. But that's kind of where we're at in the sense of the rules as they're written. Where did they come from? So is it something the committee back in 91 said, okay, this is the process that we think is the most appropriate, and it's just been sitting there since 91? Or kind of just where we're at in this process? So there's definitely going to be more research on my side. That's my role, but anything, info that you guys have is also helpful. Okay. And I would also like to share the screen while y'all think on that, and just show everyone the new ACGM webpage as we've reworked it a bit. And also if you have any feedback or points to make regarding that. Pulling it up now. Okay, so the goal was to hopefully make this a bit more user-friendly and put everything in a more centralized location. So lower division academic courses, academic course guide manual, committee, and needs course requests. So we created recent updates to the ACGM manual. We listed our little box here, and we listed the education and kinesiology courses that we made edits and changes to. weaving us in the committee. So all approved ACGM courses, effective date, August 1, 2024.
Can collapse that too. That automatically pops up as expanded. I quite figured out how to fix that, but you can collapse it.
So this little arrow here, collapse or expands. So we just, an ACGM advisory committee. The goal here was to take the static document that we send out and have all that intro type information here on the web page, because the goal is to ultimately steer away from posting an updated static document every single year, because anytime changes are approved, I go in and I make those changes, and as soon as I make them on my end, within a couple of hours, they go live. So there's no really pertinent difference between just running a search for active courses and uploading a static document. So the ACGM advisory committee, just the little spiel that's in previous manuals, kind of where we came from, how we were established, kind of thing, as we know it at least. And so anytime anyone asks, hey, when's the ACGM going to be updated? Just be like, here, go here. Search the online academic course guide manual. We're going to click this little link and it's going to take us here. And this is very straightforward. If you have a certain subject area you're wanting to look at, then you type it in. But if you just want every course in the ACGM, you hit run. And there is the most up-to-date ACGM manual right here, simply by hitting run. And I know that's going to blow a lot of minds, and people out in the world are going to be very confused, but it's simply the difference between a static document and a live document. So questions about that?
Is there a date stamp on that? What I'm looking at anywhere?
Only if you were to save it as like a document to your desktop, then it would be in the properties as when you downloaded it and all of that. But as far as anything like that pops up across the top, ran 1021, no.
We can chat with our technical team and see if that's something we can get added to it.
And Sam, just out of curiosity, is that because you'd like to know when it was last touched? Because I think the implied date on it is right now.
Nah, right. No, it's the transition from the old way to the new way. I get it, right? It makes sense to me. This is now, but a lot of faculty are gonna be like, well, we've been using a different thing forever. Maybe there's a transition way to make that a little softer for them.
That's why I started with you guys.
Yeah, I think Sam, I think that's a good call out, because how would, if somebody gets sent this document, how would they know when it was exported? So we can chat with our technical team about it.
Ask you to temper your expectations though, because this is in a legacy database that doesn't have a lot of editing capabilities at this point. So until it's transitioned into a living database and not a legacy one, there may be restrictions on what we're able to change as far as that goes.
But another good reason for us to push for updating it.
Which we are doing. Stephen?
Did you say there are archived versions of the ACGM available?
So I think we do have them somewhere. We'll just need to dig them out of our files.
Because I don't believe that the page that they were on is still an active page any longer.
Also, we've gone through a couple of website transitions, so the links may also be broken. So we'll just have to hunt those down. I think I'll make a note. I think it's a good idea to try and put an archive somewhere.
And the only reason I ask is I had a colleague ask me about there was like a course, I guess religious studies courses that were in the with the RELS course prefix, I guess, and many years ago, 10 years ago or something, and I went on to try to find it. I couldn't. And this is kind of related to trying to get a course maybe added back in there. I don't know if this is the time to talk about that, but that's kind of what prompted me getting on the website and trying to find a version from, 10, 12, 14 years ago,
Yeah, we'll try and hunt that down and send anything we can find to you.
Brenda.
Was there I guess I can open one of these. Isn't there an intro to does the ACGM go right into listing courses? Because where's that intro? Because I thought it explained like what the numbering convention was and how to offer courses.
A lot of that information, and we can consider putting it on the main web page. It is not currently there because on the institution side, there's not a lot of relevance input from the institutions as far as the numbering conventions. But if you feel that that is helpful information to know, which it could be, then we can make it a point to include that information on the main page.
I'm scrolling through it. It doesn't seem to be very significant. Might be the WECM that has a lot more.
There's about a page and a half that goes into, it's like an example, I believe, of a chemistry course of how the name is generated. So I do know what you're referencing, yes. And Kristen mentioned that the numbering convention and explanation is also on the TCCNS website.
When I came up with the numbering for this year, it was, it seems like they've gone in a pattern of twos. And then we hadn't used the course numbering yet. And that's how the new numbering came about. So there wasn't really a, hard and fast rule, because you'll see sometimes there's like a 1 number digit separating and sometimes a 2. If there is a rhyme or reason why that's the case, I couldn't find it in the notes I had handed down to me for the last 2 digits.
And Brenda, that's also kind of part of the reason why that information is not currently listed is I have no idea where that came from. I don't know if that is something the committee came up with as a numbering system. I don't know if that's TCCNS, if that's TACRO, if that was Rebecca. Like, I have no idea if that is even correct information, to be completely honest. So that is also an issue. Maribel.
Hi, quick question. Would there be a way that we can have the format like an Excel download? We use Banner as our SIS, and we have a Banner form where that is just for ACGM courses to go there. So it's a little bit hard when it's just a PDF. So in the past we had to reach to get an Excel sheet with ACGM courses, but since it gets uploaded into our student system, it's is very difficult when it's a PDF. We have to go compare. So
Yes.
if there's a way to get an Excel version of it.
I think we could probably do that manually, but I will add it to my list of technical requests. I mean, yes, we'll try and figure that out, but if you need an export, right now of the current one, I would say just shoot Amanda an email and we could get you an Excel version.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just mainly shoot me an email so I will remember from today to tomorrow. That's something I agreed to do. Yeah.
Oh, just a quick check. So some of the physical activities like recreational dance, KINE 1164, 1301. So if those are modified in July, would they show up on this manual?
Yes.
So, I mean, and I'll say they were modified previously, but I think they were formally approved in July. So they should be showing up in the updated ACGM.
I'm not finding them. They're not under physical education, and I don't see a kinesiology discipline.
Okay, we'll check on that.
Very good.
Make sure that they're showing properly. So again, legacy system.
Yeah.
Trying to make it's right. Well,
Thank you.
That's a great catch, Miguel. You mean we didn't just delete all of our kind classes out of the ACGM?
I didn't vote for that.
I'm deeply misremembering the last meeting.
Yeah, maybe it's just me. I could just be making a dumb error, but I don't see the KINE anywhere. Yeah.
Well, they don't show up under KIE. They do show up. They are listed under PHED. Now, whether they're actually there, I'm looking to confirm now, but you will not find them under KIE. I will say that.
Yeah, I could. Where are they?
They're under PHED.
I was pretty sure they were there.
I see the titles. Are they just, we don't have the letters, the prefix?
I'm seeing them. Page 209 is where I'm seeing PHED 1164.
Which one are you looking at, Erica?
It's one I downloaded when we first were able to download ACGM.
Oh yeah, no, they're there. They were not in the new one that was just given to us. They're not there.
Well, I haven't, that's the point. I haven't given like a new static document.
This
No,
if
I'm talking about the one you just showed us, the one that you get from the new website or the new lower division academic courses. When I go in the online academic course guide manual.
okay, we'll take a look at that and make sure they're in there. I just want to just double check in on the rules. I have some notes here about areas that you'd like us to work on drafting or redrafting. One is not to abolish the committee in October 25. The other thing is clearing up the TCCNS connection to the ACGM. Maybe just looking into crosswalks, how we all review academic versus workforce courses. And then also looking at if anything needs to be in there about funding implications. Is there anything else that you all would like to see in the rules? Or that you think we should look into updating in the rules?
Yeah, I was just going to say, picking up on one of our earlier conversations, we might want to just revisit that small piece of language that says this committee is going to review courses for deletion based on what happened in the last academic year.
Oh, yes, the 3, yeah, okay.
Let's
Yes.
say, I mean, we might just specify the last 3 academic years.
Yep. I had that written down, just not in my rule list, so. Anything else? And again, what we'll bring you will be a draft, so you will have plenty of input, moving forward. I just want to make sure we catch any big topic areas that you all would like reflected in the rules. And you don't have to answer right now. You can send us a note later on as well, if anything. Showing up right here. So is
It wouldn't show the KINE, just the PHED.
the PhD, it doesn't show up under KINE. So it's the Fed 1164, 1301.
KINE says go to PHEDs. I believe.
One more time, please.
I think for the KINE, I think it says it goes to PHED. Like it refers you to the PHED section.
So you wouldn't be able to search for KINE specifically.
No, you have to go to PHED.
Yes, they all show up under PhD.
Wouldn't those need to be cross-listed then or something? I mean,
Yeah.
how would you know if you were looking for a KINE?
Right, because a lot of stuff we approved was KINE. So if I'm looking for it, I wouldn't know where to go unless because then actually that becomes confusing, because then if I go to strength and conditioning, it's not listed with the same language of approval.
I was told that they were kinesiology courses, but that they were listed under the physical education prefix. I don't believe there's anything listed specifically under the KINE prefix.
In the old ACGM manual, it had a section for kinesiology, and under it, it said refer to PHED. Like there was a whole section for it that referred you. It's not in this main.
Okay,
I believe that's because we went away from the KINE prefix and transitioned into the physical education prefix.
But all the courses we approved were KINE.
That's what I'm saying.
Slash PhD. They were, the content is the same. It's just the naming convention that is somewhat different.
I mean, I guess at least from my chair for our area, we'd have to specify that. Like I'm gonna have to tell folks that we're not using that anymore.
Correct. All of our counselors would also need to know that as well, and the other institutions, because that's going to cause chaos, especially for the intro kin courses.
So I think let us go back and just double check this and look at it. I don't know why there would be a restriction on using the KINE prefix unless anyone else is aware of any. So let us just take a look at how this is showing in the
Well, it's not necessarily that it's a restriction, but it seems like an unnecessary extra like step that we have to go. Like, why don't we just call them all PHED and get rid of the prefix? No, what I mean, but like we approved KINE courses when we were doing this. So if we had just approved them as PHED courses, we wouldn't have to do the referral to something else. We would just call them the course.
Okay, again, I think we, on our end, we need to go back and look at what was approved by the committee, approved by the commissioner, and how it's entered into the ACGM. So
okay,
we'll just need to take a look at this. So thank you for raising it.
And were all the other KINE courses deleted? Also, because there was, I think there was a significant number that already existed that were and the approved courses were added into that list of KINE courses. Were they all now PhD courses?
My end, I've never known them as anything other than PhD courses. I've never made edits personally to anything with a KINE prefix. Everything was, all the conversations that we had use KINE and PhD interchangeably on my end. So all of the courses, so if it was KINE 1164, intro to XYZ, then it's going to be 1164, intro to XYZ. It's just with the PhD prefix instead of the KINE prefix. Now, why it transitioned from one to the other, I don't currently have an answer for you, but I can tell you every conversation that we had as far as documentation goes, KINE and PhD were used interchangeably. So there's no issue on the technical side, the approval side of KINE versus PhD.
And it may just be a matter of cross-listing them, which is fine.
And yes, we can check as to where that came about, but the concern for that's not what we approved. We don't have to worry about that side of it because KINE and PhD for purposes of approval were interchangeable. But the why, we're still working on. Were there any other role type conversations that should be had in regards to anything we need to look at? All right, Erica, back to you.
Right now, we're opening the floor for any other ACGM related concerns. And if there are none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I move.
Second.
All right, you all, we have a motion and a second for adjournment at 2:56 p.m. and I will be in contact via email with follow-up documents. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Be well, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you.
Thank you.